Yeah, it's all worse than I imagined. I've put out a couple videos in the past couple days, just describing what has happened in the past couple days in Nagorno-Karabakh, or Artsakh, Armenia. And I just came across this article right here in The Guardian. This is from yesterday, but it's worse than I imagined. Nagorno-Karabakh peace deal reshapes regional geopolitics. I'm going to read this here in a second, but before I read that, I'm going to read an email or the most recent exchange between a very good friend of mine who's a respected Armenian businessman. He's a Harvard Law and Harvard Business grad, and these are the people I'm getting my information from, and I just want to read a clip or a bit from that email exchange. But first, share this video, subscribe, click the notification bell. It's important that this information gets out there, especially among you Christians. I know there's a lot of Armenians watching this, and they are sharing it. You are sharing it. Thank you for that. But if you are a Christian, Armenia was the first Christian nation. If you didn't know that, you do now. And you guaranteed people that don't know that fact. These are our people that are being attacked, that this is happening to. So my call is to the Christians who watch this. Share it, subscribe, and click the notification bell so that you'll get my updates when I post them. All right. This dear friend of mine, we were talking about this scenario, and he said Armenia we need to reinvigorate and revitalize Armenia. And I was asking him what that means. And he talked about how the things that led to this problem. Here's just his talking about the situation in Armenia in the political scenario and the economics. The prior two presidents essentially demanded bribes to get anything done there. This is not Pashinyan. This is the prior two presidents, and Pashinyan is the first prime minister. They switched 2 years ago from having presidents to having a prime minister. I don't know what the term is, but the presidents demanded bribes to get things done. Possible that they embezzled as well, but they led an organization of corruption. Former high-ranking general was feeding military rations to the wild beasts he kept in a private zoo, for example. The troops were fighting with 30 to 40-year-old equipment against drones. While Azerbaijan built up oil wealth and stockpiled weapons, our leaders, the Armenian leaders, became billionaires. Pashinyan tried to build up the military for the past 2 years, but it wasn't enough. Past regimes also made it hard for foreign direct investment. The level of red tape and bribery turned off scores of Armenian Americans who wanted to buy or build businesses there. Pashinyan no doubt made mistakes, but he was fighting with one arm and one leg tied behind his back. This is a guy who should know, coming from a guy who knows what he's talking about. And so let me just read this article, get my face back up here over here. Nagorno-Karabakh peace deal reshapes regional geopolitics. Western powers sidelined as Russia and Turkey use sway on local players to boost influence. Yeah, this is the worst case scenario. This is worse than I imagined. Let me just read. The Russian brokered ceasefire deal in Nagorno-Karabakh will empower both Moscow and Ankara, that's Russia and Turkey, as the new kingmakers in the South Caucasus, analysts said, redrawing security guarantees between Armenia and Azerbaijan with the conspicuous absence of the West. Statehood for Artsakh, we got to recognize it. I don't care who ends up as president. Trump, Biden, recognize statehood for Artsakh. It's going to shrink and disappear if you don't. As in the conflicts in Libya and Syria, Russia and Turkey have once again found themselves backing opposing sides and used their sway on local players to negotiate for peace deals that guarantee their own influence. There's an absolutely new geopolitical configuration, said Fyodor Lukyanov, an influential political expert close to the Kremlin. That configuration eschews France and the United States, which, along with Russia, had formed the OSCE Minsk group and hosted talks since a key 1994 ceasefire that ended a bloody war between Armenia and Azerbaijan. But the OSCE Minsk group played little role in negotiating an end to the 2020 war, as the United States had appeared distracted under President Trump, was left off of initial communiques calling for an end to the violence. We're in the middle of a hostile election. I mean, we were at the time. Meanwhile, Turkish support for Azerbaijan helped launch a 6-week offensive that had captured Shusha, a strategically placed city in Nagorno-Karabakh, and was threatening the region's largest city of Stepanakert until Russia stepped in with peacekeepers. All right, this map is what really, really grieves me in my spirit. The agreement mediated by Russia in Nagorno-Karabakh, it's worse than I thought. It's much worse than I thought. Look at this little yellow spot. Okay, this was all, as you can see, right above me, this shape, where is it? Right there. That's this shape. What you're seeing right here. The red, the gray, the yellow. And that was all Artsakh, Nagorno-Karabakh. Armenia occupied lands surrounding what was traditionally Nagorno-Karabakh, which was smaller, but this is even smaller. So this just shows that this deal, this huge area right here goes to Azerbaijan before November 15th. This area over here goes before November 20th. This area over here goes before December 1st. And this is what Azerbaijan won in this attack. And they get to keep it. And Armenia, or Nagorno-Karabakh, Artsakh, is now, I was saying in the other video, it's 1/3 the size of what it was. And it looks like it's like 1/6 the size of what it was. The Minsk group basically doesn't exist anymore, said Lukanyov, calling Turkey an important part of the equation. The military defeat of Armenia means that the previous status quo is impossible to restore. That means that the Russian role as a guarantor of stability is highly demanded by both sides. Even on this map, this isn't referred to as Nagorno-Karabakh. This isn't referred to as Armenian-controlled. It's called Lachin Corridor Russia Control Zone. In other words, there's peacekeepers that are going to just keep the Azeris from taking this over for the next 5 years. We'll see how they do. Early on Tuesday morning, the first of nearly 2,000 Russian peacekeepers deployed toward the Lachin Corridor, a lifeline between mainland Armenia and Stepanakert, the largest city in Nagorno-Karabakh. Under the accord announced signed by Armenia and Azerbaijan, Russian troops will guard the corridor for 5 years. The future of Stepanakert looks dim. That's a city that's within that yellow territory. Come on. The future for Stepanakert looks dim, said Lawrence Bors, the Caucuses program director at Conciliation Resources, a peace-building group, adding that maybe the calculation is that it's going to be such an awful place to live that most of the Armenian population, most of whom have already left, won't come back. And he's got, bingo, they're just going to make it an awful place to live. People have left their homes that they've lived in for generations. The mission is arguably Russia's greatest intervention in the region since the 2008 Georgia War. Russia had resisted a peacekeeping role for weeks until it became clear that Azerbaijan was threatening to capture the whole of Nagorno-Karabakh. The idea was to let the Azeris win, but not completely, said Lukyanov. Under the agreement, Azerbaijan will retain control of the land it has captured during the war and retake territories outside of Nagorno-Karabakh under Armenian control. Already on Tuesday, there were signs of both sides jockeying to spin the peace deal. The Azerbaijan president, Ilham Aliyev, said that both Russian and Turkish peacekeepers would be deployed to Nagorno-Karabakh, shocking many Armenians. And I reported that in the previous episode that I posted. I read it to you if you watched it, that Turkish, quote-unquote, peacekeepers would also be going to the region, which just shocked many Armenians. Russians quickly intervened, highlighting that Turkey was not an official partner to the peace agreement, which is not saying that Turks are not sending people there. It's just saying they're not part of this deal. Azerbaijan can let Turkey come in as they want. That's my, it's not written here, but that's my 2 cents. Not a single word is said about this in the published statement. Dmitry Peskov, the Kremlin spokesman, told reporters on Tuesday the sides did not agree on that. The presence of Turkish soldiers in Karabakh was not coordinated. Turkey's influence on the conflict has been well documented as Ankara sold crucial drone technology to Azerbaijan, and Turkish security firms contracted with rebel fighters from Idlib to travel to Azerbaijan and fight on the front lines of the conflict. And the opening of a direct link between Azerbaijan and its enclave of Nakhchivan, which borders Turkey, would create a land route from Turkey to mainland Azerbaijan. All eyes will now be on the Russian peacekeepers in Nagorno-Karabakh, who are the key to maintaining a fragile ceasefire. Broer said that the Russian peacekeepers could look like a colonizing force. To go into a peacekeeping operation without a political process that could deliver a peace agreement basically means you're there for good, he said. Let me repeat that. To go into a peacekeeping operation, which this is, but without a political process that could deliver a peace agreement, basically means you're there for good. In other words, this is not resolved. They didn't resolve it with this deal that they've struck up. This is a Band-Aid. What's been created now is an inherently unstable situation that peacekeeping contingent will be vulnerable to provocations. Russia versus Turkey. This isn't Azerbaijan versus Armenia. It's Russia versus Turkey. And Armenia is the pawn in the middle. Subscribe and share.